Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News with me, Katira King. From a business perspective, Black women are spending more on beauty than our Caucasian counterparts, and the Black woman's spending power is growing worldwide. The past few years have seen a burst of brands who are creating hair care specifically for Black women. Yet the skincare market for women of color is still lacking and a prime for distribution and growth. So it would seem that Epara Skincare, a luxury skincare line formulated specifically to meet the needs of women of color, is striking at just the right time. Founded by Oxford graduate Ozohu Ado, the Epara luxury skincare line is currently only available in Harrods, but it's making Nigeria its second entry point. I sat down with Ozohu to discuss the differences in skin types for women of color and to find out just what makes Epara so special.
Hello, my name is Ozohu Ado, and I am the founder of Epara.
Tell me about your brand, Epara.
Well, Epara is a brand born out of sort of need, a personal need, and it's what I'll call a luxury skincare brand, which targets women with darker skin tones. And when I mean darker skin tones, women with melanin, so African women, Asian women, people like that. And why is that the case? Because the sort of frequent skin issues women have presents differently in darker skin tones because of our melanin.
And what does the name Epara mean?
It means the literal translation is to wrap around, which we just sort of summarize to cocoon. That's what it means. We thought that it was interesting because we were thinking, when you use Epara, you should sort of feel cocooned in luxury. You should be sort of wrapping yourself around, wrapping around yourself, good feelings, good smells, and basically that sort of, shall I say, premium feeling.
Speaking of luxury, Epara is stocked only in Harrods in the UK. How does it feel to have such exclusive stores stock your brand?
Very good. It does feel very good, and it feels very good, to have it at Harrods. And I think we have been extraordinarily fortunate to have that, because not many people do get into Harrods, for their first launch. But Harrods saw what I was trying to do. They thought it was a good idea. They liked the value proposition, and they said, yes, we would be willing to support you. So I worked with Harrods for about a year, or kind of almost over a year, really. To get to where we got to. And I did give them the world exclusive, which is now over, and hence our reason for coming to Alara, which we thought was a natural destination, really, for a brand like Epara.
Why did you decide to bring your brand back home to Nigeria?
Oh, because first and foremost, when we did the analysis a while back, we did know Nigerians did spend a lot in Harrods anyway, so that was a fact, and so an objective fact. And so what you would like to do is to make sure that people who are already buying stuff like that have easy access to it. And by being in Nigeria, what we believe is that, particularly repeat purchases, can be executed here much more easily than, say, you're waiting until you go on holiday to buy it in Harrods, or, someone is going. It just feels neater, and it feels shall I say, a better way to present a brand.
Why do you think it's so hard for women of color to find luxury skincare that is also affordable?
Well, here is the thing. Because when you look at the economics of creating skincare by the established players, they look at who their key audience is, which is mainly sort of Caucasian women. And it's sort of, shall I say, low-hanging fruit. So it's easier to iterate, formulations to say, okay, this was perhaps targeting hydration before, we're not going to do something that targets wrinkles and stuff like that. So they iterate and research those problems. Now, trying to understand the key issues that women of color face can be quite difficult, in the sense that, number one, many of the people formulating the products are not people of color. So being able to sort of key in, to understand our problems can be a difficulty. That's number one. But number two, it's very disparate. So when we're talking about women of color, that's a very broad term. right? And you're saying, and it's sometimes a bit difficult, particularly in Africa, to sort of really quantify who are these women, you know, how much are they really buying, just because our retail space is not very, shall I say, formalized. So people buy, some people travel, they buy, but they are actually Nigerians buying it anyway, you know, so but they're just not buying it from, say, a particular store in Lagos or Abuja or Port Harcourt or something like that. So, so a lot of people are interested actually to see what Epara does, because now we're going to be able to quantify who the women are that are buying this in Nigeria. We'll be able to actually tell numbers, because we know how many units we're selling. We know how many people are coming for purchase, for repeat purchases. And so, you know, I think, again, being in Nigeria is timely, because if you go back to the Western world, they're very hungry for data. They're hungry to understand what's really happening in this market. And this will hopefully be a proof that, number one, we've always been interested in looking good. That's just a fact, you know. And we're willing to invest, you know, in what makes us look good. So what you want to do is to actually, you know, present something that's been well considered to these women who are already willing to spend anyway, you know, to say to them, actually, you matter. We value your custom, and we're willing to give you something that is well thought through. So, and that was the basis for bringing Epara to Nigeria.
So speaking of purchase power, what would you say the average price point of one of the Epara products is?
I mean, it starts from about £40 all the way to, for the really sort of most expensive one, is about £180 and stuff. But, you know, the way I say it is, what tends to happen, and this is very recent research, in the UK, for example, women of colour spend almost £200 on average than their counterparts, their Caucasian counterparts. You know why? So they go to the shops, they buy a product, it's probably maybe £20, £30 for one. What happens? They go home, they try to use it, it's no good. They throw it away, they go back and they buy the same thing again. So what happens is that you think that, okay, I'm buying something that's cheap, but then you keep throwing it away because it's not working. So what you want to do is, you know what, let's actually buy something that works for you. It might be a bit more expensive, but guess what? You're going to use it, you're going to be happy using it because it's actually formulated for your skin type. So, you know, at the end of the day, economically, it might look like a huge purchase at once, but it really makes sense for you.
So what would you say gives Epara the competitive advantage?
Well, because number one, I am a woman of color. I am that woman, you know, and I know so many other women who are also very keen, you know, to use something that is, you know, that has them in mind, really. And so I understand the need. So that's the first thing, I understand the need. The second thing is that because I understand the need, I have created a solution to address the particular problems that women of color face. And I believe that that's what makes Epara it stands Epara out from everything else that's in the market.
That's amazing. How would you say you defined success when you first launched your brand? And would you say that that definition has changed along the way?
Totally. It's a journey, and it keeps changing. The milestones change as you go along. Initially, it was, let's just launch the stuff. And when we launched it, that was successful, right? We did. And then the next thing is, you know, get people to know about it, which is what we're in the process of doing now. And then hopefully the next thing will be that the people using it actually come back and say, this is amazing. And then they tell their friends about it. Again, that's another definition of success. So as we go along, it's going to keep changing. We're going to keep sort of striving. And, you know, always, although we're a startup, we're a small company, our keyword really is to innovate. So we're very keen on feedback. We're very keen on, you know, quality. We're very keen on exquisite detail, you know, to what we do. We like to the tiniest detail. It took us 3 years to launch this stuff. Yes.
Why 3 years?
Because we were working on it. We had several iterations to make sure we got it right. And if you look at it, if you touch it, if you feel it, if you know, it's been well considered.
Speaking of innovation, where do you see Epara Skin line going in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, hopefully a lot of places, really. First and foremost, in terms of where we would like to be in other African countries, for sure. around the world where we think there will be a need for it. That's number one. We would expand the line because we're always listening to the market to understand what the market needs. You know, so as I'm talking to women, as I'm talking to people like yourself, I'm going to hear, oh, actually, because we're in a hot climate, my pores expand. So then we are now thinking, what can we do to ensure that, you know, you have a product that's minimizing your pores? So those are the kind of things we want to be able to respond to. You know, we will also anticipate the market a little bit in the sense that we will bring out products that we think, you know, would be useful. And so, but I do want us to have that sort of interactive relationship with our customers so that, you know, we are actually delivering something that they do need.
And finally, if you could disrupt or change one aspect of the beauty industry in Nigeria and Africa, what would that be and why?
I think we already disrupted it. That's the truth. We have. Because we came in very confidently and we said, this brand is for women of color. Many people don't do that. People want to say, oh, it's general, it works for everybody. But we're saying, actually, guess what? It might work for everybody, but what we did when we intended this brand was that we developed it for women of color. That's what we did. And that is a very confident statement. It's a paradigm change. That's what it is. You know, so if you go back into the press, you know, that's basically the interpretation that has been, so shall I say, gleaned from bringing this out. So I would say that we already have, and hopefully we will continue to do so as time goes on.
Amazing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for interviewing me.
Epara skincare can be found in Lagos, Nigeria at the luxury concept store Lara. For more information on this highly sought-after brand for women of color, check out their website, www.eparaskincare.com. Time now for a short break on the morning show, but stay tuned, as when we return, we're talking fashion. Don't touch that dial.